fired. Donald Trump begins the process of dismantling the deep state, of dismantling permanent Washington. But it's just the start. It'll take Kash Patel. It'll take Pete Hegseth. It'll take deep cuts with Doge. How do you take down the deep state? 2, Zuckerberg, Bezos, now add Snoop Dogg. Now add Davos. How skeptical should we be of the converts to MAGA? With the host of the Rubin Report, Dave Rubin. 3, reviews and ratings are in for the new Will Cain Show. It is the Will Cain Show, streaming live, foxnews.com, Fox News YouTube channel, and the Fox News Facebook page. Terrestrial radio, some 30-odd markets coast to coast across this great United States of America, but always on demand by subscribing so that you can listen at your leisure, whether or not you're on the treadmill or driving around in your car, at Spotify or on Apple. And as of Tuesday, airing a new episode of The Will Cain Show, a unique televised version of The Will Cain Show at 4 p.m. Eastern Time on the Fox News Channel. Fellas, the reviews are in, but we also have the ratings. We'll get to the reviews a little bit later here in The Will Cain Show. What are people saying? Tinfoil Pat's diving into the emails from the Willisha. A lot of feedback about my posture and my
stand up straight,
nonverbal communication.
Stand up straight.
Did you know my wife sets a reminder on her phone, a posture reminder?
Really?
Once in a while, I'll hear her phone go off, and she'll kind of sit up straight.
That's awesome.
It's Pavlov.
It is awesome. I need to work on that. Sometimes my Instagram, because it knows I'm interested in this, feeds me different tools to make sure you keep good posture. Sitting on a curvy couch for 5 years, it's not really great for your posture.
You know what's great for it?
But I'll tell you what will stand up straight, make you stand up straight and proud. And that's the first day of the Will Cain Show. We have the ratings. 3.5 million people tuned in to the Will Cain Show. That is numbers not seen out of prime time. I'm
Fantastic.
So appreciative of everybody that checked us out.
Is anyone tired of winning yet?
It could be that we teased President Trump for an entire hour on one of his first press conferences as president of the United States. But it could also be that people are ready for a new voice. And it looks like that could be the case because we had the highest ratings in the demographic. I don't know in how long for a 4 p.m. show on the Fox News Channel. We tripled our ratings in the demographic year over year. That's a big number. Tripling.
That's crazy.
The demographic. It's an awesome debut. It is one that I'm not sitting here on some high horse suggesting is our path into the future. I know very well, ratings will fluctuate. People try out the new episode. People waiting on Donald Trump. But people may be also seeing something new, something they like. And I hope that's the case. I hope that as you were introduced to the Will Cain Show and as it evolves and as it's a process that we live out loud and openly, authentically, that you'll keep coming back because I do promise you that it will be real and it will be different and it will be a ride. So we hope you will continue to hang around for the ride. There's a lot to get to today, including one of my guests yesterday from the Will Cain Show. Dave Rubin's going to join us today for a long-form version of what exactly is happening, not just within MAGA, not just within pop culture, but what could be happening across the globe as Donald Trump receives a warm welcome from people as varied as Snoop Dogg to Jamie Dimon. We'll get into that, but first, let's get started with story number one. Deep state. That was a theme of Donald Trump for much of his time in the wilderness, for much of his time out of office. Deep state and permanent Washington being an enemy of his in his first term as presidency, and in no doubt playing a large role in ensuring that Joe Biden serves as an intermediary to the 8 years of a Donald Trump administration. Deep state and permanent Washington is in the crosshairs. I do think we need to pay particular attention to what's happening with personnel. The bright and shiny object in a new administration is policy. It is even rhetoric. It's vibes, and it's a culture shift. But it's often been said that personnel is policy. And right now, what we're watching is a transformation in personnel. The other day, Donald Trump posted on Truth Social, "You're fired," to 1,000 Biden appointees within the federal government. But that's just the start. In addition to those 1,000 who received the message that you're fired, 2.3 million federal workers were ordered to return to work in person. On top of that, most government offices were put under a hiring freeze by executive order. The part of this that you might not have seen and is very important is also an executive order move, an attempt to move what's called Schedule F forward. I want to read to you now from Zero Hedge, who puts this very well when it comes to Schedule F. Schedule F is designed to classify federal employees. There's about 7,000 members of the senior executive service who earn between $180,000 and $246,000 annually. These are top positions, policymaking jobs that career services employees can occupy. In order to shift them over, though, it could take anywhere from 12 to 18 months if you have someone within this classification of the federal government employment. It takes forever to get rid of them. But by executive order, if they can push forward Schedule F, they can reclassify these employees who essentially make up permanent Washington. I told you guys, the boys in New York, I told you, I just started watching Lioness. I'm like in season 1 of Lioness, and I like it. And, you know, at this point, Taylor Sheridan has put himself in the category of guys like, honestly, Brad Pitt or Denzel Washington.
So good.
Meaning for me, if they're in something, I watch it. I simply like it when I see that it's a Taylor Sheridan project. That doesn't mean that every Taylor Sheridan project is my favorite. I think there are some varying degrees of quality. And weirdly right now, Lioness, I think I like better than Landman. Wow. And I like Billy Bob Thornton, and I like the aesthetics and the setting and the scene and the context of Landman, meaning I like Odessa, West Texas, and the oil business. But right now, Lioness moves. It's good. So there was a scene in an episode I was watching last night, and it has this covert, intelligence agency strike force team who has executed a mission within the boundaries and the borders of the United States, who has to go into the White House and meet. And the meeting is with the Secretary of State, potentially the head of the NSA. And for a minute there, it's a little bit, for me, like, this is weird. Like, I now know these guys. Yeah. I now know these guys in the Trump administration. But it was interesting, and I was sitting there watching with my son, that represented on the other side of the table wasn't the director of the CIA, who I also know, in John Ratcliffe, but it was the director of operations. And it did make me wonder, why isn't the top of the food chain, whether or not that be, I don't know, the president of the United States or the director of the CIA, a part of this meeting? 2 days you're watching, you're like, well, it's about plausible deniability. Mm-hmm. Maybe. But, they're political offices. And what it shows is there's an inertia within Washington underneath the political offices, like at the CIA, the director of operations, that just keeps going regardless of who is president. And the amount of power invested in these individuals is jaw-dropping. Now, you can argue that's a good thing because it allows for action and efficiency and not political bureaucracy. But what you could also argue is it's unaccountability, and it is a great example of permanent Washington. And this is what's being attacked right now with Donald Trump. Here, I want to give you another example. So right now, among the departures and firings, it's FBI Director Chris Wray. It's also Deputy Director Paul Abate. Now, there is an acting director right now of the FBI while we await Kash Patel. But Kash Patel's potential nomination is a direct attack on permanent Washington. I want to remind you, this is when Kash Patel was sitting down with Sean Ryan, and he was talking about the FBI. And tell me this doesn't sound like a missile directed at permanent Washington.
Intel shops. I'd break that component out of it. I'd shut down the FBI Hoover building on day one and reopening the next day as a museum of the deep state. And I'd take the 7,000 employees that work in that building and send them across America to chase down criminals. Go be cops. You're cops. Go be cops. Go chase down murderers and drug dealers and violent offenders.
Now, in response to that, which really is an incredible statement, of course, there's going to be a ton of pushback and backlash against Kash Patel. Let's put up what Dick Durbin has said about Kash Patel's nomination to the FBI. He said, I just met with Kash Patel, President Trump's nominee for FBI director. My takeaway, he's the wrong choice to lead the FBI. Durbin then goes on to post a thread about the reasons that he's opposed to Kash Patel. But Kash Patel is going to be necessary if we move forward into dismantling permanent Washington. So will Pete Hegseth. There is a ton of pushback, again, fresh pushback today against my friend and former co-host on Fox and Friends Weekend. We're going to get into that in just a little bit with Dave Rubin of the Rubin Report. But as Vivek Ramaswamy has told us here and said out loud, formerly a member of DOJ, he thinks the federal government could be cut in half by basically firing every other odd digit in the Social Security number. But the point is whether or not that's a feasible way to do it. He's saying it could be cut by 50%, you know? And Ned Ryan, who's a friend of the program, and we'll have Ned Ryan on again very soon, who's been really plugged into this idea of the deep state, he's also put the aggressiveness of the cuts. And by the way, we could call it necessity, or we could also call it, like, efficiency. Look what happened when Elon Musk bought Twitter. He fired 90% of the employees, and it kept going with the same level of efficiency. Maybe you don't like some of the changes. Maybe you don't like some of the content. But what it did show is there was a lot of fat inside X. And that's a private company. Imagine inside the government of the United States. For now, the firings include Jose Andres, chef to the White House. Mark Milley, who's had his portrait removed from the White House. Keisha Lance Bottom, the Commandant of the Coast Guard. Linda Fagan. He's reassigned Donald Trump dozens of employees within the DOJ, and he revoked the security clearance for 51 high-level intel agents, including John Bolton, who put out the infamous statement suggesting that Hunter Biden's laptop was Russian disinformation. This that I've just shared with you, that I've read, is a start, a necessary start. And I think it's the biggest underwritten story of the first 3 days of Donald Trump's presidency, the least understood, most important part of this presidency, because policy cannot be enacted without personnel, because an agenda cannot be executed without personnel. And that personnel, regardless of how much we like Lioness, has to be accountable to the people, has to be accountable to the people. And the people have said, they want Kash Patel. They want Pete Hegseth. They want Sean Duffy. They want John Ratcliffe. You know why we know they've said that? Because they voted overwhelmingly for Donald Trump. Let's get into all of that and more, including, should we trust Snoop Dogg? Should we trust Davos? Should we trust the converts to Donald Trump? Coming up next on The Will Cain Show. What's the fascination with my former co-host, Pete Hegseth? What's with the latest round of attacks to try to stand in the way of his nomination of Secretary of Defense? It's the Will Cain Show, streaming live at foxnews.com, on the Fox News YouTube channel and the Fox News Facebook page. Hey, hit subscribe at Apple, Spotify. We've got a growing audience here at the Will Cain Show on digital as well. Of course, there's a lot of new eyeballs, so we've seen our numbers here at the noon digital show explode as well over the last couple of days. So if you're new, we'd love for you to subscribe on Apple or Spotify. We'd love for you to subscribe on YouTube and hang out with us every day at noon. More casual, more wandering at times, but also a more unvarnished, perhaps, and unedited version of Will Cain. Fellas, I just got a text from my wife, and she said, "What are you doing with your hands?" And all I could respond was, "I know." I've got 2 days in Young Establishment James. I know that We're going to be joined in just a moment by Dave Rubin. You guys got some emails in Tidville. You got some emails real quick. So let me just see if I can. Okay, Will, the TV audience hasn't yet noticed I do weird things with my hands.
I can see you
and
thinking about it right
while
now.
I'm doing it.
Right.
I can feel it while I'm doing it.
Should grab
I know
the mic
it.
like this.
It's this.
It's great for an audio guy when you touch your mic a lot. It really sounds,
And just put your hands in odd positions. I'm literally Ricky Bobby. But some of the emails coming in, let's see. 2 days you had one about the way I listen to guests.
Yeah, someone said you look like a bobblehead when you're, nodding, listening to someone. But that's just called active listening, which is what a good host does.
We'll get some bobbleheads
So it's
for
just
the show.
they're talking about, oh yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. So they're saying something about that.
Okay, noted. Thank you, Betty. And then Tinfoil Pat, you saw some as well. What was it? I need to work on my posture.
Yeah, people said they really appreciate you putting tinfoil in a bind like this, trying to scramble and find these emails.
Gotta have it ready, bud.
It's a good
You don't
pivot.
have to read it verbatim. You've already
just
read it and
joking,
shared it over the phone.
Yes. So they said they did. Oh, let's see. Where is it? Well, dadgum.
Here we go.
I had it a
This is
minute
great.
ago.
This
This
is
is
great.
radio.
Dadgummit.
This is broadcasting. This is broadcasting gold.
Na-na-na-na-na-na.
What's your heart rate doing right now? Is your heart rate through the roof as you scramble through your emails?
This isn't good.
Do you even see straight, or is everything blurry on your iPad?
Well, I didn't
as
sleep
you
very
look for
well
these
last
emails?
night either.
Try without your glasses,
look at
see
me.
if that works.
Do you need to change your password?
Tinfoil, look up.
Yeah.
Look up. Okay, there you go. Look here. Don't look down. Okay, I want you to do this.
I'm trying to find the email.
Search your memory and try to tell me what you remember seeing in the email.
Okay. So they said your posture, no good.
That's it. That's
I
what
hunched
you're.
over.
That's what you're searching for in your email.
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh.
I'm paraphrasing.
Look back up. Quit looking down. Keep looking
I'm
at
not
us.
looking down.
That's
I have
good.
ADHD
See?
or something.
Wasn't that hard to
I
remember?
can't maintain eye contact.
But he did tell us that the emails were full of new viewers, had opinions on the way that I non-verbally conduct myself. And all I can say to you is, I agree, starting with my hands. And we'll do our best to become unnatural and a stuffed shirt right there behind a desk on television. I'll get there. Trust me, I'll get to being that. Hair blown, hair dried, makeup wearing image of perfection. It's inevitable. Speaking of the image of perfection, Dave Rubin is the host of the Rubin Report. He's the creators of Locals.com. He was perfection yesterday on the Will Cain Show. Look at him. Look at his posture. Look at his jacket. Look at his eyewear, his haircut. Just perfection, Dave.
Keep going, Will. Keep going. Can I give you a couple pointers?
Yeah.
Because I just
Yeah.
heard that segment, obviously, and you'll be happy to know that I did not have lunch today. My show ends at noon. We knew we were connecting with you immediately. I just skipped lunch to watch that. I hope you're happy, Will. But I will tell you a few things. First off, I do want to compliment you first, because I know we're going to critique you here for a moment. I do want to compliment you because, look, you've just become a huge television star. The ratings are in, people love you, the show's blowing up. But you're still doing the podcast. You're still in our little world over here where we podcast, and we're very happy to have you here. Now, as for the hands, you might want to hold a pen. We call this the
That's a
Bob
good
Dole in this industry. And if you hold a pen, people think you're going to write something down. And if you're going to write something down, it must mean because you have a thought. So that's one way of doing it. What do you think of that?
I think it's incredible. I think it's unfortunately an affectation, and I'm allergic to affectations, but it will at least absolve me of my otherwise Ricky Bobby Talladega Nights affectations of putting my hands in weird places in the air.
Yeah, the hand thing is tough. I'm pretty good about keeping them down here, but I do talk with my hands a little bit, and sometimes that's good for TV. But, you guys use because you're doing a little more of like the radio thing, you guys use the mic, the big mic there. So then it's weird if your hands get in versus the lav that we do over here. As for the bobblehead and the posture thing, I mean, that you got to be yourself, man. You know that. But yes.
Yeah.
I would say take a word of advice from my friend Jordan Peterson. Stand up straight with your shoulders back. Because I have a habit of doing that too, leaning over a little bit like this, and then people are like, "Is he okay? What's wrong with him? Maybe he needs some meat or something." So you'll be okay.
Well, you were great yesterday on the Will Cain Show. We were happy to have you on the second episode. I'll never give up. To your point, this digital project, I think it's the future of our business, and I will continue to build in this environment, as you have done very successfully with the Rubin Report. Dave, I think you're the perfect guy for this topic. And you and I have been through this together in the past, sort of the road you've traveled, your walk from the left over to at least center right. I think this puts you in the perfect position to look at others who might be making that same journey. I say might, Dave, because I do think there is a certain level of healthy skepticism that should be afforded to the likes of Mark Zuckerberg, to the likes of Jeff Bezos. And I would think, in trying to be accurate, maybe we shouldn't even be skeptical. Maybe we should be cynical. I'm curious what you think of these individuals now all of a sudden lined up behind Donald Trump.
Yeah, I love that question. I thank you for asking me because, this is sort of my area of expertise. As someone that left the left, I was one of the progressives. I mean, I was on the Young Turks network. That's as far left as it gets. And I think one of the things that drew people to me over the last 10 years was that I was just very honest about I was going to say obvious, but it was obvious and honest about my political evolution. So it was happening in steps, and it was all happening in front of the camera and on podcasts because I was suddenly talking to people like Larry Elder and like Ben Shapiro and like Dennis Prager and Glenn Beck, and the list goes on. And you could see I was learning a little bit more. I was challenging my own beliefs and all of that. Now, that I would say is very different than what we've just seen with, say, Zuckerberg or some of the other people, because Zuckerberg basically went on Rogan and never really apologized for anything or showed that he had evolved. He just laid out a story, right? His story is that, we were running Facebook and we kind of wanted to respect free speech, but we had the government calling us and yelling at us and it was brutal. Well, okay, that might be true. I'll take his word for that. But what I want to know is, dude, did you apologize? Do you apologize to us? Do you realize that you did something wrong within that? Now, I can't speak to what's in his heart, so I don't know what the answer to that is. But I would say if I was Donald Trump right now, I would do just what Donald Trump is doing. I think it's pretty smart to bring in people who have been critical of him, who maybe made major mistakes intentionally or not, like Zuckerberg or really any of these guys, Bezos for sure. He doesn't know what's in their heart either, but if you bring them in and they're a bit malleable now because the culture has shifted, you can probably work with them. Now, for guys like us, Will, it's our job, I think, to do the other part, which is always kind of hold them to account and point out when they fail us or anything else. But one thing I said on my show as it pertains to Zuckerberg, look, I went for my pen there, so it looks like I'm saying something very smart right now. You see that? One thing I said on my show as it pertains to Zuckerberg is, okay, so if the government was calling you and yelling at you, that's what he said. They were yelling at you guys, take down these posts. All right, how about you give us the names of those government employees? Because those people should pay a price, right? I mean, those are the people who actually did the job of stepping on our First Amendment rights if the government is calling a private company to demand that people be silenced. So I still think I think his hero's journey seems to be on the road right now, but I still think there's a lot that needs to be done there. And yes, we should always be skeptical of someone that just sees the tea leaves changing. It's cool to support Trump now. It's cool to love America again and all that. That's great. But we should be skeptical of the people who maybe just want to get on the train because they see it's leaving the station.
So it's interesting. I'm sure, Dave, throughout your journey, there are people who've been skeptical of your conversion. I don't think that is a wise, and I don't think that is I guess in some ways I understand someone's skepticism, not to you personally, but to anyone who makes that journey, because you ask about motivations. Instead of talking about you, I'm going to use a different example here now, okay? My friend and former colleague at ESPN, Stephen A. Smith, seems to be on a much earlier version of that journey. I don't know that he is. I don't know that Stephen A. is going to move to the right, but he seems to be much more independent and tied to common sense. In response to that, there are others who've said, be very skeptical of Stephen A. because he's doing it for his own personal benefit. because he's got his finger in the air and he can see the movement of audiences. I'm going to use this now to move to several other pop culture figures like Snoop Dogg, okay? So Snoop Dogg, 4 years ago, does a video mock assassinating Donald Trump. By the way, once called me a devil or a white devil. Now he is also performing at Donald Trump's inauguration. And this is the way the ladies at The View responded to Snoop.
The thing that really, I think, was spotlighting Snoop is because of the things that Snoop Dogg said 10 days before the inaugural in 2017. And so, look, if you opposed and stood up against Trump in 2017, but you were there now, if you spoke up against Trump January 7th, 2021, but you were there now applauding him like a trained SEAL, Donald Trump has not changed. You've changed.
Yeah, and that's okay, Dave. And from our side, we should welcome people's ability to change and make that same journey towards not Donald Trump, but hopefully towards righteousness, towards truth.
Of course. You want anyone to follow a path that is true, right? You don't have to come to all of the exact political conclusions I've come to, but you want to believe that anyone's evolution, whether it's political or spiritual or whatever it might be, is a path that's leading them to something true. You know, there's a deep irony of Ana Navarro claiming that someone's evolution is not true, because this is a woman who was a conservative. She is a Cuban who lives in Miami, who used to work for Marco Rubio, and she has become a complete wackadoodle leftist. I think possibly because it pays a lot of money on The View and on CNN, et cetera, et cetera. I try generally not to impugn people's motives, but it's very weird when someone evolves. When you're young, you're on the right, and then over time you become a leftist. That means you're just chasing power, actually, because the left is always interested in power. That's why there's that great, I think it's Churchill, who said, if you're in your 20s and you're not a liberal, you have no heart, and if you're in your 30s and you're not a conservative, you have no brain. She's the living, breathing example of the reverse of that. It's very rare that people always end up evolving our way for a series of reasons. Also, everything she's saying there it's profoundly thin, low resolution thinking, because the culture has so significantly changed. I did not vote for Donald Trump the first time around. I didn't want to vote for Hillary either, and I voted for Gary Johnson, the libertarian. The second time around, I absolutely, very proudly voted for him, and this time I was utterly thrilled to vote for him. But it's not, that actually isn't necessarily just because I changed, it's because the whole world changed. The media changed. We started realizing how much people like Ana Navarro were lying to us. They lied to us about Brett Kavanaugh being a serial rapist. They lied to us about very fine people on both sides. They lied to us about COVID. They lied to us about the Covington kids. They lied to us about Kyle Rittenhouse. January 6th, we could go on and on and on. So Anna, if you are concerned about what's happening culturally here, you might just want to get a mirror, lady.
You know, I have a theory as well, Dave. You talk about the potential financial benefit in being so obstinately anti-Trump. I have another theory as well. First of all, the conversion of guys like Snoop or whoever we may be talking about, is actually a reflection as well of leadership. Donald Trump used to say this. The first time around, he always said something about winning. You're going to get so tired of winning. I really think I've learned this about human nature. People gravitate toward winners. People gravitate toward true leadership. And what we've seen Donald Trump over now, we're beginning the 9th year, essentially, of him in the middle of the spotlight at the top of American leadership, is an exhibition of true leadership. He is at the point of the spear, and people are falling in line behind him because people follow leaders. But the ones that don't, so whether or not that be Ana Navarro or a few others, I find one other commonality among them. Let's call it maybe even Bill Kristol in that crowd as well. The ones who were originally insulted personally by Donald Trump, there's a category of them. And this is what makes Megyn Kelly special.
I was going to say, it doesn't include Megyn Kelly.
It actually highlights her exceptionality, because the others that were personally insulted by him, no matter what, couldn't separate who he was or what he was for from their own broken ego. And I think there's a large category of people who were tweeted about in 2016 or 17 and can't move on. Their ego is bruised.
Yeah, I do agree with that. It's a damn shame too, because, if you're in any business that involves a public persona or just anything that's outside of yourself, you're going to get hit. You're going to get into fights. People are going to say wrong things about you. If you hold a grudge against everybody forever, it's really it's about what that's going to do to you, not what it's going to do to them. But let's back up for a sec, because you asked me about Stephen A. Smith. And, I had Stephen A. in here just a couple weeks ago. I'm mostly proud that I beat him in a free throw contest after. He beat Kenny Smith in a free throw contest, and then I beat him in a free throw contest. So that's pretty sweet. But that aside, let me say this about Stephen A. I like him a lot. He's the guy is direct as hell. He's got he's an incredible broadcaster. He knows how to speak to the camera and do the show and all of that. What I didn't know about him that I learned while we were talking is he really is thinking about all of these issues, and you can see the evolution happening. Now, I would say the same thing that I said about Zuckerberg to Stephen A. I don't know him well enough. I don't know Zuckerberg at all, but I don't know Stephen A. well enough to say what's in his heart. But I did think he said something that gave me a hint of it. He did say, look, I did not vote for Trump, but I'm not upset that he lost. Now, I suppose you could hear that and say, well, that was just kind of weak because he really should have voted for Trump, but he wanted to hedge his bets, and now he sees which way the culture is going, and he's just playing along, or he sees that to his benefit. I suppose you could say that. But I actually think there might be something else there. As this guy is evolving, I would say Bill Maher is in a similar situation. I'd say that I don't like calling him Charlemagne the God. His real name's Lenny, as this Lenny guy is going through it too. I think what's happening is, as they realize there's been this wholesale change, and in many ways Donald Trump is defending liberal democracy more than any of the Democrats, meaning Donald Trump doesn't really care about the social issues. If you care about minorities, or let's say you cared about gays or women or whatever else, you would want a closed border, or at least a safe border, because generally the types of people that are coming in don't like women or minorities or gay people or whatever. So I think there's been such a wholesale change that I want to be as welcoming as I can be here. So you don't want to be duped. That was the point of your question. And I think that's fully legit. But as I said to Stephen on air, look, I'll continue this conversation with him, and I'll continue it publicly and privately. He just moved down to the free state of Florida, so where everyone's coming. And guess what? Nobody's going to hate him here because he doesn't necessarily have a MAGA hat on. But I'll continue that conversation with him and see, do we keep hitting roadblocks where I see that he's just not getting there and it makes no sense? And if I do, then we should discuss that publicly, I think. So, yeah, it's a matter of intentions and what is in people's heart versus what you can see at in a public sense.
Well, to his credit, Stephen A. did push back on the ladies on The View about their attacks on Snoop.
Oh, Nelly is not a political person. Nelly doesn't get involved in the campaigns. Nelly does perform for people who will pay the right fee, et cetera, as an artist. And he is somebody that don't want to get involved in all of that and believes in respecting the office because of the power that comes with it. That's his position. Like it or not, you got to respect it, because there's plenty of hypocritical asses out here in this world acting like they don't do it, and they do it every day. But you gonna come at him because he went and sang a few songs at the incoming president. See, that's the BS right there. And that's the kind of stuff that's got to stop.
Now, I got to tell you, that is shocking to hear, because one of the most explosive debates I ever had on First Take, and it's got millions of views on YouTube, is the two of us having an absolute, and Max Kellerman, knockdown drag out about Kevin Durant and then the Golden State Warriors visiting the White House under the first administration of Donald Trump. I mean, it's one of the most explosive debates I've ever had on First Take over the exact issue that he's now defending Nelly. But I will say, I also believe in his authenticity. And yesterday I asked him on the Cain Show on Fox News whether or not, if he had a do-over, if he would vote for Donald Trump. He dodged that. He didn't dodge much with Dave Rubin. You could check that out, the whole interview from a few weeks ago with Stephen A. Smith on the Rubin Report. Hey, I want to ask you this, because you just rattled off that list of lies. And it's always good to have that handy at your fingertips because it is so compelling. You still see converts, by the way, Dave, who go, you know what my moment of truth was? Very fine people. The latest thing that they're really, really obsessed with, Dave, is my friend. They are really obsessed with Pete Hegseth. Like, there's a whole new, fresh round of attacks today on Pete. He's already gone through his confirmation hearing within committee, but before this goes to the full vote in the Senate, there's a whole new set of stuff. And I'm not going to lie. Dave, I had a senator call me and say, Will, why? Why do you think so much? More than on Cash, more than on Tulsi, more even on than RFK. And I don't know the answer to that, Dave. And so I'm going to ask you, why the obsession with Pete Hegseth?
Oh, I think it's pretty clear, actually, because he's doing two things with them. He's competent. You know that better than most, right? You've worked with this guy for years, but also, I mean, his pedigree, pre-TV host, he's competent. He understands what the issues are. But then it's the way you know him. It's because he's a TV person. He is able to get up on camera and communicate the ideas properly and push back on the media properly and do it with a smile, with his slick back hair, and look cool and fight the right fights. He's not just like some broken bureaucrat that they can put out there like, oh, he checked off all of the things on the resume, but he can't really be a presenter. What Trump is great at, he's great at many things, but I think this time around, he's also choosing people that are ready to get in there. Even Rubio yesterday, if you saw that video of him going to the office for the first time, the State Department, and you can see his suits fit a little bit differently. He seems very confident in how he's speaking to the staff and talking about America. So I think, look, Hegseth is getting confirmed unless something absolutely insane happens. It sounds like it's going to be 50-50, and then Vance will break the tie. He absolutely should be in there, but the attacks are only because he's over the target. He has the pedigree and he has the television readiness to communicate the ideas. That is the double-pronged thing that they fear most.
All right, last topic with you, Dave, here. I don't know if you've covered this one on the Rubin Report, but this sort of broke overnight, and that is an announcement was made 2 days ago, I believe it was now, or was it yesterday, that there's going to be a $500 billion investment in AI infrastructure in the United States. As part of that announcement, Sam Altman of OpenAI, Larry Ellison of Oracle, and the leader of SoftBank stood side by side with Donald Trump. Since then, last night, Elon Musk has tweeted that this is basically a bust. He suggests SoftBank doesn't have the money. It's well known that there's a rift and a fallout between Altman and Musk. And now I've seen what I actually will give credit to an interesting conversation on CNN about what does this mean about the relationship between Trump and Musk. This doesn't seem to be something that Elon would be excited about, Donald Trump partnering with Sam Altman. But at the same time, I mean, if nothing else, Donald Trump is independent.
Well, I think one thing Elon probably knew going in was that he was not going to win all the fights with Donald Trump. This might be a fight that he's just not going to win. There's a lot of beef, as you just referenced, between Altman and Elon because of how ChatGPT eventually was rolled out and some of their business stuff before it really became the thing that we all are using for AI purposes. Although I think Grok, which Elon has on Twitter, is actually a lot better. But putting that aside for a moment, look, AI is a-coming, whether you like it or not. And, we have a running joke on my show, Will, where it's like, for podcasters like us, it's like, they could probably, AI will replace the director and the editor, but eventually it'll replace us too, because there will be an AI Dave Rubin and there will be an AI Will Cain, and they'll somehow, and you know what? I hate to tell you, Will, AI Will Cain, he's going to know what to do with his hands and his bobblehead. He's going to be perfectly like this, and he's, yeah.
Oh, his perfection will be so unappealing.
And he'll probably drive bigger numbers. It's wild. But look, Elon is not going to win every fight. But what I would say is this. It reminds the fight because it got public because of some tweets. What I like about this is what have we wanted out of government for the last 10 years? We've wanted some level of transparency. How did the Democrats get Biden to step down? They did it all behind closed doors, coronated her behind closed doors. We still don't know what the hell happened there. Remember, the week before Christmas, we had that crazy H-1B visa fight online, and you have Elon going and Vivek going, and you had the America First people going, everybody's fighting. And I saw all of these people like, oh my God, this is so horrible. It's never going to hold. Trump's not even president yet. And I completely took the other approach on it, which was, let's have these fights publicly. Suddenly you have Vivek making a case for HB1 visas and I think he made some good points. I didn't agree with all of it. But then Elon making arguments, and some of the language got colorful. And then you had more of like the Trump MAGA people pushing back on Elon. And it was like, boy, we could read all of the arguments right in front of us. We could see what the debate was. And now Trump ultimately will make some decisions that'll probably be a little bit of both, that there needs to be some refining of H-1B, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that's what's going to happen here. I can't speak to all of what's going on inside of this thing. And I don't know if the SoftBank guy really has the 500 mil. It sounded like it's not all happening at once. He's dropping 100 now, and then another 100, and then I think it was 500 over 4 years. So I don't know what his bank account looks like. But the point is that SoftBank guy would not be standing with Kamala Harris. The tech leaders, I was at Thiel's inauguration party, and Zuckerberg was there, and Sam Altman was there, and JD was there, and Mike Johnson was there. And I don't mention that to pat myself on the back. I mention it because it's like these people are coming together. They agree and disagree on a whole bunch of stuff, but let's give it a little room to breathe so that maybe we could, I don't know, make America great again. That sounds good to me.
I totally agree with your perspective. I welcome all those debates within the tent. I think it's healthy. It's healthy. It's making America healthy again. All right, he's Dave Rubin. He's on the Rubin Report. Check him out every day. Really appreciate you being on with me yesterday and again today, Dave.
Will, here, sit up for 1 second. Sit up. Look at you. Look
Shoulders
at you.
Back. Yeah.
Big TV star, man. Very proud of you.
Thank you so much, Dave Rubin. I'll see you again next time. There he goes. All right. Including my posture and what I do with my hands, let's read through the reviews, both from you and those from the press, plus pour over the ratings for the first couple days of The Will Cain Show. Reviews are in, ratings are in for the first episode of The Will Cain Show on Fox News Channel. This is The Will Cain Show, live, digital, 12 p.m. Eastern Time, every day at foxnews.com, on the Fox News YouTube channel, and the Fox News Facebook page. And always available, like our Friday edition of Cain on Sports, at Spotify or on Apple. The Willicious jumped into the comments section, mostly here cultivated from YouTube. Here's what is being said by the Willisha. Eleanor MacArthur says, I need Snoop and Mark to get dragged more before I believe it. You know what Eleanor's getting at there, and I understand, is the idea of penance. Certainly when it comes to Zuckerberg, there must be penance. Actually, before penance, there must be absolution. You must have accountability. You must own your past sins. Then you pay sentence. Then you are welcome back inside the congregation. He's not at all paid for or accepted accountability for what's happened to people like Eleanor or Tina Guin, who says on YouTube, not a chance. Or Michelle on YouTube who says, time will tell. Hopefully they are sincere. All these people who, like this show, were shadow banned or censored on Facebook. Junie Cohen says on YouTube, you can't trust them. Thrash Command says, never trust someone who switches sides so quick and easy. But Water Bottle Blues, in which I appreciate, said, so what? People have a right to change their minds anytime. And I think that is absolutely true, Water Bottle. I have changed my mind. And I think, just like anything else in life, and why I've tried to make this my mission statement, is you have to trust people's honesty. And I see honesty through the lens of authenticity. Are you being real? I don't like peering into other people's motivations. I just don't, because it's the hardest thing to see. I don't like when people do it to me. But on some of these converts, I do believe the initial primary positioning is, okay, I'll remain skeptical until you win me over, which might just require accountability, absolution, and then penance. You put a poll up 2 days on this. How do people feel about trusting these converts?
So we got about 500 votes so far. Do you trust new Trump converts like Zuckerberg and Snoop Dogg? 70% say no, 30% say yes.
There's another element to this as well, because at least in both those situations, Snoop and Zuckerberg, you're not talking about a simple change of mind, but these guys were warriors for the other side.
Yeah.
Like Snoop mock assassinated Trump. Like, mock assassinated him.
Was that Snoop or Eminem?
That's a big road he's traveled. That's a big road. It's not like, I reconsidered his position on the border, and I realized it wasn't rooted in racism but national security. It's a long road he's traveled, and the same with Zuckerberg. So I understand the 70% that say no. What's up, young establishment, James?
We've seen all these guys convert right now, and there was a poll out this morning that had Trump's approval rating at 56-40. Let's say as he gets hit and he puts out of his agenda the next 6-7 months, let's say that goes down to 47-48 or something. Where are these guys going to be when it's not as blatantly popular to vote to be in favor of him?
Yeah, that'll be fascinating. It's also going to illustrate the point that I made to Dave. I just never underestimate the power of winning. Like, the power of winning.
Clout chasing.
And what it feels like in 2024 is way different than 2017. Here, you want to, guys, let's do a little example analogy together. Like, do you guys know many kids? I'd say at this point, they'd probably be between the ages of, it's probably like 10 to 20 years old. People in that age range, 10 to 20-year-old people. I don't know, James, if you have a little brother in that age range.
I have niece and nephew that are 14 and 17.
My brother's a freshman in college.
Here's a question for you.
I know a few.
Okay, here's a question for you. Are they a fan of the Golden State Warriors?
You do see those jerseys.
Yeah.
You see those jerseys out.
Yeah.
That's true.
So my age group, you know what the Warriors were? A nothing franchise. And that's not an insult. Like, literally, the Warriors were, who's a good example of the Warriors right now? It's kind of hard because so many small market teams are doing well in basketball. But, it would not be crazy to compare the Warriors.
The Magic.
Yeah, Nuggets. Nuggets and Magic are decent examples. And now they're one of the three most valuable franchises in the NBA. They're one of the best-known brands in the NBA. You know why? Because winning is infectious. Mm-hmm. You want a broader timeline? Hey, in my life, James, the Patriots, in my life, they weren't just a nothing franchise. They were a joke.
That's wild.
And I was a fan before they became what they were, just to be clear.
Okay, that's good to clarify.
I don't
That's
think
good
so.
to clarify.
It was chosen when I was born that I would be a Patriots fan, which was a year before Brady had been drafted. So very simple.
Winning is infectious. It's simply infectious. And Donald Trump is winning, and it's infecting those that used to hate him. Let's try this one more time, putting him on the spot. Tinfoil Pat, do you want to share with us any of the reviews of the initial episode or two of the Will Cain Show?
Oh, sure, boss. So
now he has 100.
Yeah, I just happened to have these pulled up, thinking that you're going to do something like this to me again. Garrett Seawright at Barrett Media, which is a big media site. He said that that you did a pretty good job. Couple things that stood out were like the graphics. A lot of references to the Will Cain Show. So like the background had some Will Cain logo. Dadgummit.
I have something.
A lot of gummits today.
I have something from yesterday's show. Someone said your first.
Can we just all appreciate that I put him on the spot, and it was like standing at the edge of a skyscraper. The whole time is like, is he going to pull this off? And when he decided to arrive at his landing spot of what he said his conclusion was, the pregnant pauses, the conclusion was, he said, you did a pretty good job. Wow. That is a bold statement coming from Barrett Media through the words of Tinfoil Pat. I'm not sure the parachute deployed after we fell off the edge of that skyscraper. What do you have to it, Ace?
The first day of the new TV show, that you wore a purple tie. Is that correct?
Well, I have to remember.
Yeah, it was purple.
No, I wore a blue tie with red stripes.
Was it? It looked a little purple, but someone said the purple tie is quite
blue make purple.
Quite the statement. What do you get when you combine red and blue? Thanks for ruining it, James. Appreciate that.
Sorry.
So they're reading a political statement into purple, but it wasn't purple, so I don't know what to say about that.
Someone said Laura Adley on the chat said, if you must have the mic, make it shorter. You're giving it top billing. The focus should be on you, Will Cain, using your full.
It's a co-hosted show between Will and Big Mike.
Yeah. Yes, that's what they're essentially saying. The Will and Big Mike show.
I got one.
There was also, let's see, let's see. There was also a really nice review in the Daily Signal. Rob Bluey of the Daily Signal was on with us just yesterday. And then the headline in the Daily Signal is something like, Will Cain is the right man at the right time for Fox News. Go ahead, Tinfoil.
You didn't even have that pulled up. Amazing. Okay, because I had
It's almost like he can remember things.
Now I could have done it, but I don't know. I didn't. Yeah, that's all I got. much more positive. The other guy noted your sports references, and it was a little bit of mixed stuff. But Rob Bluey's was much more, even more positive than the other one.
Great analysis.
Great stuff.
I did see on the Barrett Media review that it said that
Careful with emails.
It appeared this show was sort of sitting in the locker room or on the on-deck circle for prime time. What I would say is this show is the point of this show is to be a success at 4 p.m. That's the point of this show, and it will establish its own voice, its own unique place in the news cycle. Of that, I'm confident. And in some ways, I feel like I'm in on a secret. And I don't begrudge anybody writing a review after day 1 or day 2, even if they're positive. But I feel like I'm in on a secret because what this show's going to be, is going to be a lot different than everything that's on cable news, and a lot different than the way it is today. 2 days, you just get in my ear and tell me that my screen is mirroring behind me?
Yeah, in your email.
Is that what you just told me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't care.
Okay, I'm just checking. I'm trying to save you. That's my job here.
I do not hide from the audience. My mistakes, my successes, I do not hide. So let me share with you a few successes. The Will Cain Show, 3.5 million and 451,000 in the demo on day 1. The share of cable news. You guys ready for this? The share of cable news. That's everyone watching cable news. 73% in the demo.
Wow.
3 out of 4 people tuning into news watched the Will Cain Show in the demographic.
Dangarang.
Is a 50-50 male-female audience. Here's my favorite one. Are you ready? Will Cain increased the 4 p.m. slot versus the same time period last year, more than double overall, and within the demo, 18 to 49, tripled year over year. That's a hell of a start, and we thank you guys, everyone watching.
We did
so
it,
much.
Joe.
Thanks, Kamala.
And I will work on my posture. And I will work on my head bobbing.
Don't listen
You
to
know
the
one of the
haters.
things I've got to figure out? My man Sharky, who cuts my hair up in New York. I've got to find a new barber.
Oh, that's
in
tough.
Texas.
My wife said your hair was getting a little long.
She did?
Yeah.
2 days, you have really got inside my head twice today. You're the one that shared with me the head bobbing thing, and now the hair. Because I do think the hair is too poofy and long. And I've got to find a dude. I don't have a dude in Dallas. I've got to find a dude to cut the hair.
I noticed whenever you come...
I'm going to miss Sharky.
Yeah.
It's hard finding a good barber. That's a really big thing in a man's life, I feel like.
I've used the same barber since I was born.
What were you going to say, James?
I just said I've used the same barber since I was born. I still travel back to Rye every couple of weekends to go to him.
Hey.
Yeah.
When you get something you
I was
like.
getting my hair cut on every trip back to New York. Yeah. Maybe it's good to mix it up every once in a while, though. Maybe you should try somebody new, James.
Nah.
Whenever somebody else tells you they're really super dedicated to the guy they've been using for years, what is it when you go, huh, why?
He's a handsome dude. I don't know.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for us today. We're going to be back a little bit later this afternoon, 4 o'clock on the Fox News Channel, and we will be back here again tomorrow, same time, same place. See you next time on The Will Cain Show.